I'm so happy that you guys are here. Thank you for joining me on this beautiful 4-week transformation. So let's get right into it. When we are in handstand, we have to understand that basically our shoulders are going to function as our hips. So when we are upside down, we have to be really bulletproof. Don't think too much about what are my feet, what are my legs doing, what is my core doing. The first thing that we really need to focus on is our shoulders. So what are our shoulders doing? When we are in handstand, the ultimate deciding factor is, are we in shoulder extension? So what does that mean? Shoulder extension basically means that we are pushing our shoulders all the way to our earlobes. So basically we want to bring that part of our body, that shoulder, closer to where our ears are. So we are really pushing into the ground, or in my case, the ceiling. That means that our shoulders are going to be super strong, super solid. And when we're then looking at our hands are going to be basically our brakes, preventing us from falling either forward or backwards. Now, it can be a lot and overwhelming in the beginning, but think about your shoulders being your hips when we're just standing. And then look at your feet. So I want you to do this little exercise with me. So look at your feet, and then you can lean a little bit forward, and then you feel already what your toes need to do. They have to grab into the floor in order to prevent you from falling forward. And then the same goes if I lean backwards. I really have to dig in my heels so I'm not falling to the other side. And this is basically what your hand is going to do. One of the biggest things that I see beginners make as a mistake, and I did it as well, was to keep the hands kind of closed. But we really want to spread our fingers, and that means that we have a really tight grip on the floor. So we grip the floor with our fingers, and that's going to prevent us from falling forward, or we're going to dig into the heels, and that's going to prevent us from falling backwards. I want you to do a little floor exercise with me, where we just practice a little bit the hand engagement that we then will have when we're actually going into our wall exercise or into the kick-ups. So when we're on the floor, we can come into a tabletop position. That means that I bring my shoulders over my wrists and my knees underneath my hip bones. And so look at your hands. Really spread your fingers wide and then bring your shoulders over your wrists. From here, I want to really dig my index finger into the ground as to root the root of my index finger into the ground, which is basically this part of your hand. So you want to make sure that your L, or like this L, the index finger and the thumb, the inner seams of your hands are really pressing, like digging into the ground. That engagement is gonna fire up the muscles that you need in order to keep your shoulders stable. So you can kind of also just see what happens when I roll onto the side of my hands. It means that I'm losing my shoulder engagement. And this obviously is a big no-no. We want to really dig the root of the index finger into the ground, press that L shape, so the inner seams of our hands into the ground, and you see that how my shoulders inevitably are going to be much more stable. So this is the engagement that I'm looking for for you when we're in handstand. So what happens very commonly when we're not strong yet, when we're practicing for handstands, is that we're kind of like losing our engagement. That means we're rolling onto the side of our hands, our elbows bent, and we kind of like sink into and then fall out of the handstand. That is basically what we are training so it won't happen. We really want to understand how to engage our hands, how to engage our shoulders, so we are strong. We have this like super rock solid foundation from where we can actually start playing with our handstand. But for now, I want you to get a feeling for your hands and what your shoulders have to do. Naturally, the second part is our core. How do I brace my core? It's a term that we hear so much in the fitness world, and it can mean different things for different sports. But what we want to do here when we're learning handstands is, what do I mean by bracing my core? Bracing my core means that I'm tucking my navel towards my spine. So I'm basically suctioning my navel in and up towards kind of like my heart. So in towards the spine and up towards my chest or my heart. And so that means that I have here already like a straight back and a super solid and firm foundation. That can also look like this. So when I am here in my handstand position, I'm bringing my ears alongside my upper arms and push into the ceiling. And then I want you to bring your hands to the, I want you to bring your thumbs to the lower part of your rib cage and your pinky finger to where your hip bone is. So what often happens and how we are creating this banana back is kind of like collapsing into that spine flexion. Now, I have these 2 pointers. I want you to shorten the distance between these two, and by tucking your navel towards your spine and up towards your chest. And that is the core brace that we are looking for. So again, I bring my thumbs to the lower part of my rib cage, I bring my index finger to my hip crust, and then I shorten the distance. So you can see how my pelvic bone is kind of like doing this motion, right? Suck. And then I cinch my waistline, which means I pull my navel towards my spine and up towards the heart. And now my core is nice and engaged. So what we're not looking for is this. This is going to be banana back. We're always trying to correct into that neutral position, into a braced core. Now that we have learned how to engage our core and what it means to engage our shoulder, let's understand how we kick up. Kicking up can be very, very scary in the beginning. And so I want you to just explore a little bit. Have fun in the first week, just seeing how you feel in the room and how to build confidence. We can only build confidence by actually exposing ourselves to what we are afraid of. And believe me, I am always so scared. And I remember when I started training for handstands, I was very, very, very scared to kick up because I was always thinking I will break something. So I can show you how to set up your kick up, and then I want you at home to do it as well and just to get a feel for it. And you can also work up your courage to always kick up a little bit higher. Okay, but here is a setup for when we want to kick up, okay? So we can come down, and I want you to bring your hands on the ground, grip at the floor, but we don't have to like stress our fingers into the floor. The fingers can be somewhat soft, but I really want you to press the palm of your hands into the floor. Think about the index finger and like the root of your index finger pressing into the floor. Now look how my shoulders and my wrists are in one line. I want you to also bring your shoulders and your wrists into one line. And now we come straight up. So bring your shoulders to the highest points. And I'm already walking in my feet as close as possible. It depends a little bit on your hamstring flexibility, what for you is going to be the closest and the most comfortable spot. So this already can feel quite strenuous, but I want you to really push the floor away and push your shoulders towards your ears. So you want to bring your shoulders over your wrists and already come to a quite high point. A lot of beginners make the mistake that they start their handstand here, and then it takes a lot of force to actually kick up, and it looks like something like this, where your feet kind of lead the way and you're flailing your legs forward. So we want to avoid that. We want to come up with a lot of control. In the beginning, it feels very heavy on the shoulders. It's normal, and we will build up the strength for this. This is why we're here and we're training, and it's very normal to feel like it's stressful, like I'm out of breath and I'm doing handstands all the time. Anyways, so we bring our hands back to the floor. I bring my shoulders over my wrists, and then we can raise one leg. And already I'm coming to the highest point where my shoulders are really at an elevated position. Now from here, you can just push into the ground, and I want you to think that the leg that is extended is going to stay extended, and the push is actually coming from an impulse that I'm going to give with my hand. So I'm pushing the ground away, and then I'm kicking up with the leg that is bent, okay? So inhale here, and then on an exhale, I come back up. And just do this movement. It doesn't have to be super high, so you can kick up somewhat low. And it's just to get a little bit of a feeling for what we're actually doing here. So one more time, I bring my hands onto the floor, I bring my shoulders over my wrists, and then this leg keeps straight. I can already bring it as high up as possible, and then give an impulse into the ground and push, and push. So it doesn't have to look how it looks like for me right now. We're separating basically two skills, which is the kick up and the balance. The balance is gonna be a different drill on the wall, and the kick up is a drill in itself. So in the first week, we are going to focus on these two skills separately. So I want you to just kick up in a room where you have a little bit of space. One part of the kick up that is really, really important is learning how to bail, okay? So learning how to bail is basically understanding which side you feel a little bit more comfortable falling towards. If you have super amazing spine mobility, you can also fall into a bridge. I don't recommend it. It's a bit scary. So we want to learn how to fall to the side. So come again into that beautiful position where we come high up onto our shoulders above our wrists. And then bring your leg up. For me, it's my right leg straight up to the air. And then on an inhale, I can sink a little bit into my shoulders. And then on an exhale, I push the ground away and I come a little bit to the side, okay? So I want you to focus on bringing, in my case, my left foot just a little bit out to the side. Because ultimately, when we're kicking up into a handstand, and then we're about to fall, this is kind of like the side we can fall onto. But we can build it up in small steps, small digestible steps, where I'm just kind of like coming to the side, I push up and I come to the side. So this is how we also can overcome a little bit the fear of kicking up high. When we're kicking up, I also want you to think how we're leading with our bum rather than our feet. So try to avoid thinking that you have to work a lot with your legs and your feet, where you have to like really kick up. But rather, I want you to think that the impulse is always coming from the shoulder. So it's kind of like you're extending the shoulder, you're pushing into the ground. And this is ultimately what's going to give you that thrust upwards. The next part of our training is going to be on the walls. We really want to focus on wall training. We're going to spend most of the time of our training of this whole program on the wall, because 80% of handstand training, especially in the first year, should happen here and not freestanding, because we really need to build that strength and that stamina that we need in order to actually balance and hold a handstand. And so with no further ado, we're going to go to the wall. The wall is our best friend. So the first exercise that we are going to do is going to be the toe to wall, as I call it. I don't remember the actual name, but the toe to wall is going to be you're pointing one toe to the wall and you keep one leg straight, and then we're going to switch. And that's going to teach you strength. It's going to teach you how to engage your core, and it's also going to teach you how to balance, because in the transition of switching our legs, we actually need to balance for a little bit in a freestanding handstand. So let's do it. We're going to have the same setup. So I bring my shoulders over my wrists, I dig my index finger into the ground, and then I kick up by pushing hard into the ground, by really coming into the shoulder extension. So here we are. Now, we bring one toe to the wall. So I have my big toe pointing towards the wall, and then I bring my other leg all the way extended, and I'm pushing into the wall. So what we want to avoid is kind of like sinking into the shoulders and bending our elbows. So we really want to push. And then on an exhale, I'm gonna switch my foot, and we can switch. So you see, on every switch, we really want to re-engage our shoulders. Another exercise that we are going to do in the first week is shoulder shrugs. For the shoulder shrugs, we can bring both legs against the wall. And this is going to teach you how to build up the strength and the awareness of what happens when you're actually sinking into the shoulders. Because when we sink into our shoulders, chances are that we are going to fall out of the handstand, but we don't want. So on the wall, we're gonna practice sinking, but on purpose, and re-engaging our shoulders. So bringing our shoulders back into the shoulder extension. Let's do it. Same setup, bring our shoulders over our wrists, and then bring both feet against the wall. And when we sink into the shoulders, and we come back up, sink into the shoulders, come back up. And the movement can be somewhat explosive, but you can also do it slowly and subtle. I'm out of breath. I hope you too, because these exercises, they are not easy, but this is ultimately what we need in order to get super strong. Let's get to the worst part of the practice, core. And I mean, I think it is a no-brainer why we need the core stability. It's just gonna be the powerhouse. Actually, what's gonna keep us upright without falling into the banana shape. So one really, really good exercise is boat pose. And if you are doing Pilates or yoga, you are probably very familiar with this exercise. There are different variations, and just try out which variation works for you, and then use that one as your starting point. Let's start with the boat pose. So choose any variation that works for you. So you can actually grab your thighs and bring your toes up from the ground and kind of in a 90-degree angle. So you can stay here, try to keep your spine straight and look forward, puffing your chest up and kind of like pushing your chest towards the front, towards your knees. So you can stay here or bring out your arms to the side with your fingers pointing the same direction as your toes. Try to keep your toes pointed and not flexed or like hanging in the middle. We really want to have the legs engaged. Now you can stay here or start to extend your legs. And that should already feel pretty spicy. So this is one exercise that you can do. In the training plan, in the PDF guide, you can see you can do 3 repetitions of 15 to 30 seconds. Work up to a time that feels manageable for you. Now the other exercise that we can do is our good old plank position. And the plank position kind of also teaches you how to engage and stabilize the core. So again, you can measure the distance of how your arms should be by grabbing your opposite elbows with your hands and then bringing your hands up to the front so your fingertips are pointing towards the front. From here, we extend the legs backwards. And there are different mistakes that can be made. So one mistake that I see is kind of like sagging in the middle. The other one is like keeping your bum too high. So we want to kind of stay a little bit in the middle, right? So you can bring your knees down, and then from your knees down, clench your bum, but not super hard. Just like kind of squeeze your bum a little bit, and then extend your legs, pulling your heels a little bit towards the back. Your shoulders ideally should be over your wrists, and then we stay here. Again, pulling our navel towards the spine and upwards towards the chest. This is a great exercise to really learn that core control. Choose one or the other, or both if you're feeling extra spicy, if you feel like you still have a little bit of energy to burn after everything that we have done. But yeah, I mean, that is all. These are the exercises that you can do about 3 times a week for the first week. Handstand training is quite repetitive, but in this repetition is where the gold is buried. I hope that this was helpful for you. Take a little bit tough time to cool down. You will find a nice cool down session. I will link it down below on my Instagram, and follow it along. These are a couple of exercises that just, give you a bit more ease. And keep practicing.